What if I told you the market was never built to make you rich? That it doesn't reward effort, it doesn't reward how badly you want it, and it definitely doesn't reward how often you trade. Because the truth is simple. Most people who enter the market will lose, not because they're stupid, not because they don't try, but because they play the game the wrong way. They think more trades equals more money, more screen time equals more success, more effort equals better results. But the top 5% think differently. They don't chase the market. They don't react to every move. They don't feel the need to always be in a trade. In fact, they do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. While most traders are rushing, they're waiting. While most traders are emotional, they're controlled. While most traders are trying to win every trade, they're focused on executing a process. Because the top 5% understand something most never will. The market is not a place of constant action. It's a place of selective action. And that changes everything. Because once you stop trying to catch every move, once you stop forcing trades, once you stop reacting emotionally, you start seeing things clearly. Sell-ups become obvious, decisions become easier, mistakes become fewer. But here's the problem. That kind of behavior feels wrong. It feels like you're missing out. It feels like you're doing nothing. It feels like you should be doing more. And that's exactly why most people fail. Because they can't sit still. They can't wait. They can't trust the process. So they overtrade. They chase. They react. And slowly they bleed their accounts. But the top 5% have mastered something simple but rare: control. Control over their actions, control over their emotions, control over their decisions, even when money is on the line. And that's what separates them. Not intelligence, not secret strategies, but discipline.
And once you understand that, everything starts to change. Because now trading is no longer about doing more, it's about doing less, but doing it better. The top 5% don't wake up looking for trades. They wait for trades to come to them. They don't need to be in the market all the time. They only need to be in the right trades at the right time. And most of the time, that means doing nothing. That's the part nobody talks about. Because doing nothing doesn't feel productive. It doesn't feel like progress. It feels like you're falling behind. But in trading, doing nothing is often the most profitable decision you can make. Because every bad trade you avoid is money saved. Every emotional decision you don't take is damage prevented. And over time, that adds up more than any lucky win ever could. The top 5% understand this deeply. They know that patience is not passive, it's active control. It's choosing not to act when there is no edge. It's staying disciplined when the market is tempting you to break your rules. And that's where most traders lose the game. Not because they don't know what to do, but because they can't stop themselves from doing what they shouldn't do. They see movement, they feel pressure, they want to act. So they enter trades they didn't plan, they risk more than they should, they chase what's already gone. And then they wonder why consistency never comes. But consistency doesn't come from action, it comes from control. Control over when you trade, control over how much you risk, control over when you walk away. And that's what builds real confidence. Not winning trades, but knowing you can trust yourself to follow your rules. Because once you trust your execution, you stop second-guessing, you stop hesitating, you stop interfering, and your trading becomes cleaner, calmer, more precise. That's the mindset of the top 5%. They don't need more information, they don't need more signals, they don't need more trades. They just need to stay consistent with what already works. And that's what most traders never realize. Success in trading is not about finding the next big thing. It's about mastering the simple things that everyone already knows, but very few actually do. And that's where the real separation happens. Because knowing what to do is common, executing it under pressure is rare. The top 5% don't become elite because they discovered something new. They become elite because they repeat the same correct actions over and over without breaking. They don't chase after losses. They don't celebrate wins like they've made it. They stay neutral. Because the moment you get too emotional, you lose control. And once you lose control, your decisions stop being logical. You start forcing trades. You start increasing risk. You start trying to prove something to the market. But the market doesn't care. It doesn't know you. It doesn't reward effort. It only reflects your behavior. And if your behavior is inconsistent, your results will be inconsistent too. That's why the top 5% protect one thing above everything else: their discipline. Because once discipline is gone, everything else follows. Your rules get ignored, your risk increases, your edge disappears, and slowly your account follows the same path. But when discipline is strong, everything stabilizes. You take the trades you're supposed to take. You avoid the ones you shouldn't. You accept losses without hesitation. And most importantly, you stay in control. Because at the highest level, trading is not about beating the market. It's about not beating yourself. And that's the mindset that separates the top 5% from everyone else. And once you stop beating yourself, something unexpected happens. Your trading becomes quieter, less noise, less stress, less urgency. You're no longer jumping at every move. You're no longer chasing every opportunity. You're just executing. And that's when clarity shows up. You start seeing the same patterns more clearly. You start trusting your plan more deeply. You stop questioning every decision. Because you've removed the one thing that was always in your way: your need to act. Most traders think activity creates results, but in reality, unnecessary activity destroys them. The top 5% understand this. They know that every trade has a cost, not just money, but focus, energy, and discipline. So they protect those resources. They wait. They observe. They stay patient long enough for the right moment to appear. And when it does, they act without hesitation. Not emotionally, not impulsively, but precisely. Because they've saved their energy for what actually matters. And that's what makes their trading look effortless. Not because it's easy, but because it's controlled. And that control is built long before the trade. It's built in the moments when nothing is happening, when the charts are open and there's no setup, when your mind is telling you to do something, anything, just to feel involved. That's where the real work is, not in the trade, but in the decision to stay out. Because every time you choose not to act without a reason, you strengthen discipline. You prove to yourself that you're in control. And that control carries into the moments that matter. When a real setup appears, you're ready. No hesitation, no doubt, no emotional pressure, just execution.
And that's the difference. Most traders are exhausted by the time a good opportunity shows up. They've already taken too many trades, already made too many emotional decisions, already drained their focus. So, when it matters most, they fail to act correctly. But the top 5%? They're fresh, focused, patient, because they didn't waste their energy on what didn't matter. They waited. And that's why when they act, it counts.
And when their actions count, the results start to compound. Not in one big trade, but over many small, controlled decisions. Because consistency is not built in a day, it's built in repetition. Doing the same thing the right way again and again without breaking your rules. And that's what most traders never commit to. They want fast results, quick wins, immediate progress. But the top 5% think long-term. They understand that one trade doesn't matter, one day doesn't matter. What matters is how they perform over time. And that perspective removes pressure. They don't need to win today, they just need to execute correctly today. Because if they do that consistently, the results will follow. And that's where confidence is built. Not from winning trades, but from trusting your process, knowing that no matter what happens, you will do the right thing. And when you reach that level, everything becomes stable. Your emotions don't swing, your decisions don't change, your behavior stays the same. Win or lose, you remain consistent. And that consistency is what puts you ahead. Because while others are chasing results, you're building a system of behavior that produces them. And over time, that difference becomes impossible to ignore. And that's when you realize something most traders never fully understand. The market was never the problem. It was never about finding the perfect setup, the perfect entry, or the perfect strategy. It was always about you. Your discipline, your patience, your ability to follow your own rules when it matters most. Because in the end, the top 5% don't win because they're smarter. They win because they're more controlled. They've mastered something simple but rare. The ability to do what needs to be done and avoid what shouldn't be done, over and over again. Without breaking, without reacting, without letting emotions take over. And that's the difference. Not knowledge, not talent, but behavior. So, here's the lesson. You don't need to trade more to succeed. You need to trade better. You don't need more strategies. You need more discipline. You don't need to predict the market. You need to control yourself. Because the moment you stop chasing, the moment you stop forcing trades, the moment you commit to your rules completely, that's when everything starts to change. Not instantly, but consistently. And in trading, consistency is what builds results. So the next time you open your charts, don't ask, what trade can I take? Ask, is this worth taking? Because that one question is what separates the top 5% from everyone else.